You are in tune to the Federation Sound, Red Bull Radio. I want to welcome Jah9 in the place.
Blessed love, my brother Max.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Indeed. Give thanks.
We were just reminiscing about some of the touring that we've done together.
Mm-hmm.
Good times in Humboldt County.
For sure. Yeah, man.
Well, soon, apparently, well, maybe not soon, but eventually, the rest of the country will be like Humboldt County.
Yes, the rest of the world, hopefully, eh?
Well, also, so Jamaica is not quite Humboldt yet, but has started some of the steps in that direction, or no?
You could say that herb has been decriminalized. And so the biggest thing is that you're no longer going to get a criminal record for possessing marijuana. And that's a huge step. But there is still so much to be done, you know? And the Jamaican farmers are not necessarily prepared to handle it all. But Jamaica is a special brand, you know? And so it'll be interesting to see how we take our culture and, you know, make this whole marijuana industry our own.
I mean, it's interesting because it's more than just, like you said, like a farming and a marijuana industry. It's connected to and interconnected with the whole culture.
Exactly.
So it's going to have to evolve differently.
The model is, there is no model. There is no model like the Jamaican experience. And so you see a few dispensaries popping up and they're bringing these American type models into the Jamaican setting. And you're like, I don't know if that's going to work.
Well, it's interesting because so someone had told me about one where it's like that kind of model where you got to, lock door, you have to buzz in, and then there's like sort of like a paperwork. But like you said, that's an American model, and the sort of cultural Jamaican connections to it is something very different. I feel like you'd be more likely to be sitting around a riverside.
I know. You see, these are the things. This is the Rastafari experience of it. And so what has happened is Rastafari has been given permission, quote unquote, or the authority to kind of operate with herb more freely because it is sacred and sacramental, and so we can operate in a different kind of sphere. And so that gives different potential to the Rastafari cultural experience where, you know, they can take advantage of it. But in terms of commercial use of herb, it's all of those people who used to fight herb. Yeah, they're the ones with the money now, and they're the ones who are privatizing this herb thing and bringing the American model and all the locked doors. And I just don't see how it can work when you can just call somebody and get herb, like really, really good quality herb.
Like, yo, I could literally just call.
Why would I do that?
I could literally just call somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. And also the other thing is that one of the difficulties here in the U.S. is the fact that it's a United States. There's these 50 states that have different laws, and then there's federal laws, where at least in Jamaica, even though I know it's like off to a rocky start, you're dealing with one set of laws, one government, and one set of rules that govern the entire country at least.
True. And those rules pretty much come from these United States too. So that's pretty much why we were held down for so long with this herb thing, because it's almost as if we don't get permission from the states, we can't do this. That's how it really feels to us on the ground. Like, why has it been taking so long? Why is it that they're doing all of this in the world? And it's as though they want the system to be so set that by the time Jamaica is given an opportunity to take advantage of it, like the whole world has already moved on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that element of it. I mean, the one good thing that you can still always say for Jamaica is, a huge part of the Jamaican economy is tourism. And as far as developing ways that really, obviously exporting is a thing, but that bring more people to engage in it, on that level. True.
And what is good is certain things will be standardized, and it is going to cause an increase in the quality as well. And so now there's more studies being done, like on the university campus, there's actually studies being done. So the quality of the herb is going to improve. Certain farming methods are going to improve. And even post-production and the things we can do with the herb, like there's potential for that too, because they're building spaces now where herb is going to, like more first world type spaces where production and trimming and all of that is going to happen in that kind of controlled space. And so you see it, and you see the potential for like the medicinal use of herb. And I think that's more the brand that Jamaica is going to benefit from, is using it in a medicinal way, not just to say come and get some ganja, but the whole lifestyle,
So like medicinal and religious when it comes to Rastafari, and then the sort of recreational being a kind of third.
Yeah, I mean,
part
recreational, you can't go around recreational. But in terms of like the sacramental use, that's going to always be. But using it culturally, like saying, come to Jamaica and have a whole experience of the levity. So it's like herb will go without saying. You know what I mean? You won't have to say, oh, come and buy some herb. You'll say, come and have this experience. Herb included.
Right. And a huge part of that experience also, well, you know, just another thing connected to that experience being music, because that's always been, you know, my discussion that I always have with people is, and this goes to the kind of tourism industry and the government in Jamaica, is that people come for, we already talked about the herb part, but music and culture are the things that make Jamaica stand out.
Jamaica, exactly.
Amongst
the people of Jamaica.
There are many beautiful beaches and islands and places like that all around the world, and we all love to go visit them, but
there is no place like Jamaica. It's true. It's true. No matter what they say, no matter how they paint us in the media, like you come to Jamaica, it's a different experience. The personality of the people, no matter how aggressive they seem, like these are some of the most loving people, you know, and the soil of Jamaica, like the food that grows in Jamaica, the dynamic geography of Jamaica, like we have rainforest and we have desert, you know what I mean? There's everything there. And the people, like it seem like a third world country, but everybody there has real first world confidence. Like you talk to those Jamaicans, like everybody's an artist, everybody have them thing plan and pat, you know what I mean? Everybody have a plan. And I mean, for the most part. So we're just looking forward to seeing how these things will unfold and hoping that the people will learn, you know, how to take better advantage of it. Because it's really not a situation where anybody holding anybody down. It's just inform yourself so you can take advantage when the opportunities come.
So how do you feel then being able to go into the world and share your music, your art, your culture, and just Jamaica with people and places that are new to it, that are getting familiar with it, and also people that have loved it for many, many years?
It is an honor. It is humbling because I step out there as a Jamaican reggae artist and there's all this history and legacy behind me. So like even before I start to open my mouth, they see me, and worse because I represent in Rastafari visually as well. So they're seeing right back to Bob Marley and Marcia Griffiths, like all of the heartwarming reggae music from yesteryear comes right back at them. So that's a powerful thing to be armed with, to trot out into the world.
That's cool. I actually never really thought of it that way, that even just before you even open your mouth, just literally your actual appearance kind of evokes this whole history and tradition of things that people definitely have an awareness of. Yeah. And that awareness, again, goes back to the thing that we just talked about, is through music. That's why people are aware. That's why the world is so aware of Jamaica.
True.
So you're lucky enough to be able to travel the world and continue to spread it.
Yes, True.
Well, that's what we're here doing. So let's touch down on some new music.
Yeah.
Jah9 is in the place with us. It's the Federation Sound, Red Bull Radio. This one is brand new. Love Has Found I.
Give thanks for him, Emperor Haile Selassie the First, and Empress Menin. Perfect balance. I take a risk, I let him in. I am afraid, I admit to him. This type of surrender was an under agenda, but I find that this brother is inspiring. Him don't have no money, him still kinda young. A lover and a fighter, but I just send him come. This type of surrender was an under agenda, but I find that this brother is high reflection. Love has found I finally. For a heart him bring the healing. Him learn from the example of the king. Love has found I finally. Taking it slow, but not letting go. I'm not one to trust, a man full of lust. I don't fish for compliments, I'm real serious. But love from the lion brings access to Zion, and the queen him rely on fulfills her purpose. I journey as Omega is to keep Alpha strong. I complement his nature and define his function. nation. So love from the lion brings access to Zion. Masculine and feminine united as one. Love has found I finally. For a heart and brain the healing. He learned from the example of the king. Love has found I finally. Taking it slow, but not letting go.
Red Bull Radio, Federation Sound, Max Glazer, Jah9. So now let's just jump right into the fact that this new set of music of yours is very, very, very different than
Very different, really?
Well, there's 3 songs that we're gonna play, so
Okay.
very, very, very different than all of your previous music that certainly I'm familiar with, and I feel like most of the world is familiar with.
True, and it is intentionally so. What I wanted to do with this 3rd record is to bring it a little closer to the people in terms of the messages, in terms of even how I would, put things. Because in my first record, in New Name, like it was really about establishing this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is the state of the world, and this is why I have to do it this way. And I'm not some sexy lady out there. I'm militant and strong and understand me and don't put me in a box and right?
But it's interesting that you felt all of the pressure to do all of those things.
I didn't feel the pressure. I felt it was the
natural.
most natural thing for me.
It comes across that way because I would say definitely heavy and dread and serious would be my description of that earlier set of music.
True.
And then, but also interestingly enough, having been able to hear and listen to all of that music, but then also upon meeting you the first time and getting to spend time on the road and touring together, that from hearing your music, I don't even know how to describe it. You're much more well-rounded than the impression that a lot of people probably get from you from, the music that they had heard from you in those first couple of projects.
True.
You're a big joker. There's a lot of jokes and laughs and smiles on the road.
True. And you see, this is why we have to protect ourselves with this armor to make sure we go out there and we aren't taken for granted, Or they see the jovial side and then they don't take you seriously. Or they see a playful feminine side and then all of a sudden you're in that box like you're a girl artist. When I put New Name out, there were people who were sending me love thinking that I was a man because the songs were so poignant that it didn't matter if it was a male or a female, and that's what I wanted. And then for the second record now, Nine was about establishing myself creatively. And so I did most of it, creatively, I led the process with that. I produced that album under my record label. It was so important to me. I needed it to be my label. Conceptually, I wanted it to be 9 tracks at, down to the BPMs had to be equal to 9 and the minutes. And I went overboard.
And the release date, I remember because this was when we were on
the
tour
9th
before
of the 9th. Yeah, all of it was a part of the process for me, And even the songs that I chose to do as well, it was less about trying to please people. It was really me trying to please myself creatively in terms of what I wanted to communicate. I wasn't trying to dumb anything down. I wasn't trying to, pretty anything up. I really wanted to just be in that creative element. And so for this record, I really wanted now to serve with it in a different way. And so there's a lot of people who, they know Jah9 for that and that, that is what they love and that's what they want to hear.
Militant.
Yeah. But at the same time, there are millions of people who will never hear my music because you can't play it along with the other things that juggling. This is my research, that and all of the reasons why. And I'm there there are people who could benefit from these messages, but because of the way they're being put across, I'm probably going to not reach them. That's just the hard reality of it. And so with this record, I really wanted to make sure that the music was more accessible. And so I've used, my collaborating with producers and kind of stepping back and allowing producers who are noted for putting more accessible music out there to kind of just lead and to even taper my messages and simplify them, because profundity comes from simplicity as well. Being able to say something very, verbose and lyrical, but when you can break it down so that even the children can understand, that is when you really have succeeded in your communication. And that's what we're really trying to do with this next set of music.
I mean, it's definitely, like I said, it feels, I don't know if brighter is the word, but there's definitely feels
lighter,
feels more lovely, and just in that direction.
You've only heard 3 songs, so
well, but
you're
those are the 3 that you've chosen
led with, yeah.
to present. I think obviously to show that one, there's more to you than what people have heard thus far, and there is this other direction, and also I guess kind of the artistic statement of like I can do whatever the hell I want.
True.
And like you said, I mean, does some of that kind of awareness of the fact that there are more people that you do want to get this message to come from the time that you spent out in the world touring and studying these things?
True. The time I spent on tour, with other artists, when I was on the road with Chronics, and I was, hearing, like, I remember hearing him say in an interview, like, when you listen to my music, it prepare you to listen to Jah9 music. And I'm like, that's a serious thing I'm saying right there now. And it's true, like, and Mikey Bennett, another great producer out of Jamaica, he always used to tell me, Boy 9 is like those songs are like 3 songs all in one. So, I'm trying to say, all right, let's break the message down, leave a little room for people to dance and breathe so that they don't have to pay so much attention while they're listening and they can still kind of move and bubble to the music too.
So in that case, they're very dense songs, full of information and energy, but also the world needs that for sure.
True.
And obviously it's what...
and there's a time and place, So I've generally made music that you sit and listen to on your own. And I prided myself in the fact that, listen, take this music, sit, digest it. But you want some music where you can play out in the dance floor. After you're done, you come off of your head top and standing on your feet again. The music can reach you and it's still, it not judging you, it not making you feel, self-conscious. It just, they're giving you a nice little feed-in too. So that's what I try to do with this set.
Just making you feel good?
Yeah, just to make you feel good.
You see where I'm going with this?
I see where you're going with that.
Jah9, Max Glazer, it's the Federation Sound, Red Bull Radio.
Things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the thing I like though. Things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the thing we like though. Things that make your body feel good. Oh, things that make your body feel good. Only the things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the thing we like though. Love it when the muscles start burn. Love it when the body start learn how to bend. Like to feel the pelvis oscillate and kundalini activate, and I'm transported to a higher state. Into the sea or into the dance around the yoga mat. Into the office or into the vehicle or anywhere I'm at. Just monitor the hydration and surrender to the high vibration of the things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the things we like though. Things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the things we like though. Things that make your body feel good. Oh, things that make your body feel good. Only the things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the things we like though. As a herbalist living with the land, trust me, there is a cure for every illness known to man, but it takes courage and knowledge and patience to create the optimal state. Starts with what is on your plate. That will teach your brain what you endows in and make it fill your vessel up with endorphins. So when you get to working and need the strength, the raw and the natural will help you reach the length for those things will make your body feel good. Oh, them the things we like though. Things will make your body feel good. Oh, them the things we like though. Things that make your body feel good. Oh, things that make your body feel good. Only the things that make your body feel good. Oh, them the things we like though.
All right. So the things that make your body feel good. Let's talk about yoga. We could turn this just into a whole yoga session. I promise I'm not just trying to get a free yoga lesson out of this. Because all now I didn't even get one on that whole tour. I wasn't ready for it though. It's something you have to be ready for, right?
It's true.
Because Jah9 is advanced.
No, but you see, when I'm teaching, I don't teach my practice. I teach the room that's in front of me. So as a teacher, you have to kind of be aware in your mind of all that is possible and step into a room and see who's there. Because sometimes you go in a room and it's younger people, sometimes it's older people, sometimes it's people with injury. So you really have to be compassionate, you know?
I'm going to fall into the older people category.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be so surprised.
In the middle?
You'd be
Not
maybe,
in the younger
maybe in the
people
middle,
category. All right. So the reason I bring that up is obviously in that song there's a lot of reference to the physical things that you can do and eat. We'll talk about the eating and stuff after, because you're definitely clearly, as we just said, a yoga teacher, but also teach in this whole
holistic wellness vibes, lifestyle teachings. Yeah.
And did that start separately from the music, or is that something that came along as you found yourself out here being able to bring that message to people?
You know, that was first. Wellness, like taking care of myself. That journey started very young because I grew up very sickly. Like, I was asthmatic when I was young. I had really, really bad asthma, chronic bronchitis, like a lot of issues with my respiratory system. And so I was in and out of hospital a lot as a child. And, you know, drip and injections and nebulizer and overnight and weeks in hospital, that kind of thing. And I didn't even understand how serious asthma was until I was older. I just knew whenever I felt my chest tighten up, I need to go and tell my parents I need to go to the hospital.
Like that, so regular back and forth to the hospital.
Really regular. And as I grew older, I'm like, this can't just be my life, right? I mean, one of the first things was ganja. I'm not gonna lie, like herb made the world of difference to my respiratory system.
And and that's something that even from when I was a kid, that's kind of like long-term been the two things that it's always been referenced for as good for as far back as I can remember. Asthma and glaucoma are the two things that here in the US we grew up knowing that, you know, if like someone was off there, that those would be the medical reasons.
And then remember, I don't smoke. I only use my steam chalice. And it was the steam chalice, which is a kind of a water bong, you call it. But instead of burning the herb, you basically bake it, right? So the herb doesn't actually get heated. You use coconut shells to create the heat, and then you pull through the bamboo and it cools in the water. And so you're getting the medicine, you're getting all the medicine out of the herb without the negative combustion and all of those,
smoke.
You know?
Because regardless of what you're smoking, there's no question that smoke is a carcinogen, and in certain ways, even though it can be providing some sort of positive effect, smoke in and of itself, no matter what it is
harmful.
There's a negative to it.
I mean, if you're gonna smoke something that can, you know, kind of reverse the process too. So that's why I would say, you know, to each his own. But for me, when I learned how to build the steamers and then I started to use it, it literally increased my lung capacity, because you have to breathe very deeply to keep the fire lit. And so in just practicing that ritual of deep breathing, I expanded my lung function and I was able to really clear my whole bronchial situation.
Were you already singing at that time in any capacity?
Yeah, I was. I have always been singing. And so when herb came into the picture, I mean, I started off smoking. And I remember smoking did some things to my voice that, I really enjoyed the kind of sounds that my voice started to make. But then after a while, I was like, no, I can't do this anymore if I'm going to sing. You know, I had to make that choice. And it's really because of the fact that I have to sing why I stopped smoking more than anything else. But the steamers, it really worked out. It is a clean process. And because it is a ritual, because it is so involved to, you know, get there.
You don't just sit there you don't sit there doing it nonstop all day.
No, exactly.
And also, I mean, you have anyone who's heard your records, but really more if they get to see you sing live, you have a big voice. So I can't imagine having kind of like asthmatic and having breath problems.
Trust me.
Being able to develop into what you have now.
Yeah. Real challenge. I mean, even if when I'm at certain altitudes and I try to take that breath and I don't have all of that breath, I feel it. So, you know, I know I'm not compromising my lungs for anything.
All right. So that was where the smoking came in.
That's where the herb came in, right?
Yes, the smoking and then the steaming. Pardon me.
Right.
But what about the
yoga?
What about yoga?
So that
journey. That can't be kind of like an everyday thing that you buck up in Jamaica, especially when you were getting into it.
No. That was maybe a decade ago. And you had one yoga studio that I can remember, maybe two, but there's one in particular, and it's always like some, foreign looking people own these studios, and it's very hoity-toity, and you feel really awkward going in there, and then you do it, like, oh my god, this feels so good, and you realize, oh my gosh, I have an affinity for this, because I'm pretty flexible generally, always been athletic, so when I got into it I realized, this feels really good, and then like within a couple of years a teacher came down and opened a school and gave me an opportunity to practice, to learn to be a teacher, to be certified as an Iyengar instructor. And I just haven't turned back since. We trained for 3 months straight. And then when I completed that, like every year I would go back and train. And then since then I've been trained in yin yoga and Kemetic yoga, which is an African-based yoga, which is just amazing. Very, very different from traditional Hatha yoga, but still similar principles. And I practice a lot of Ashtanga. And that's a more physical, rigorous practice, but that really is good for the cardio too. So I kind of use the physical aspects of yoga to balance my body, and just the breath work and the meditation and that kind of vibration to kind of balance my head, because, as a creative, them say you kind of feel a little mad too. And so sometimes when you're in this world, the world don't really appreciate the madness, So you have to really learn how to dance between, being a recluse and being a social creature too, because you have to go there and do interviews and all these things, when really and truly you just, there's so much inside that you're burning and you want to get all of these issues out and tell Max all about the fluoride in the water, but you have to just know that, okay, no, you have to talk about your record, and you have to, so it's just learning to balance.
We're going to talk about the fluoride in the water on the next interview, because we're going to continue this, because I love talking to you, and so it's always good, so we can always come talk about some music, but also I like to learn stuff. So next time, everyone mark your calendars. We're going to talk about fluoride in the water.
And the decalcification of the pineal gland.
What she said. So then learning yoga. So one thing that you've done is combined
the dub and the yoga.
Yes, the love of music and the love of yoga. So now when you're touring yoga on dub.
Yeah. So we put together this special offering. So I found that dub, like instrumental dub in particular, gave me an absolutely Irish space to practice in. And when I was teaching other people, especially people who are new to the practice of yoga, it made it easier for them to receive the practice when there was this music behind, when this instrumental dub was playing, and they didn't have to focus on anybody around them. They were just focused on, okay, this is the music, let me just listen to her voice and just try to do the best I can.
Well, because music in whatever setting it's used for it's great for putting you into a certain frame of mind.
Exactly.
So if it's like at a sporting event and it's to get you hype, it's
exactly. It is a science. We know, for sure. Music is that science, and so is choosing the right sounds. And then what I've started to do with yoga and dub is use my band. And so while I am singing, my band is literally, I'm leading them through different versions of the songs, slower tempo, more bass driven, more percussive, more dub tones, and just carrying the people through that. And so the experience becomes very immersive. And the practice that I lead is kind of a blend of all the styles that I practice. I wouldn't say come and it's a Iyengar class. Like, I have been training for 10 years and studying diligently to just learn about anatomy and to learn about how this thing can really work in the body. So it really isn't an athletic class. It really is about giving you some tools that when you leave that yoga and dub session, you are empowered to go and just, use some of them in your own life.
I mean, do you find people coming and checking that out as probably as a result of the music?
Definitely.
And people who are not so familiar with the yoga side of things and then following up and getting more involved in that?
Definitely. It's always a melting pot because you'll have the yoga communities that come out, because I always try to incorporate teachers from whatever area and a studio so that when these newcomers who will inevitably come, have this experience, I can leave them with someone. And it's not just, I have to wait on Jah9 to do this. It's really bringing the communities together. And so especially, I have to mention Ithaca, New York. Like I went to Ithaca before, and then the second time this year when we went, we did the yoga and dub, and we did it in a community center. And so the black people of Ithaca came out, and then the white people came out, and everybody else. And it was just such a melting pot, like people who would never have been in the same space together. People who never practiced yoga before, but people who only practiced yoga and didn't know anything about Jah9, and they were all there together. And then once the band started to play and the music went down, like I could feel in the room just a transformational experience happening, And then you get to really infuse word sound into people in a real serious way when they're breathing deeply and their mind is clear. And things have way more meaning when you're not thinking about everything else around you. So it's almost like certain conversations are better had when people are brought to a stillness,
Yeah, and it seems it's really like in this last year probably that you've been more so combining the yoga session with the live music and the tour.
True, for the past 2 years, maybe more so, but this year definitely has intensified. And I'm getting more and more calls for, we want to see this, we want to try this, And I see more and more people doing it too. Other people out there, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But you can't deny it. Like reggae music, roots, yoga, it's so natural. Rastafari and yoga, it is so natural.
No, the reason that you share these things is because you want more people to experience them.
Exactly.
And it's something that you love and enjoy.
Exactly.
And a big part of the joy is sharing it with people and with the people who are already familiar with it. But even more so, a lot of the times, seeing people who are just discovering it.
That is a powerful thing. To see somebody who has never practiced and to watch their bodies open. Like even before I started doing it as yoga and dub, like that was when I used to teach more often I wasn't on tour so much and I could teach more often in Jamaica.
Well, sorry, you're so busy making music here, but
Like if I would be teaching like 3 times a week and somebody would come at the beginning of the week, by the time it was the end of the week, I could see the difference. I could see them get a little more access to their spine, access to their breath, and you can, their whole countenance would be different, And that for me was extremely rewarding. And that's really what motivated me to say, hey, I have to find a way to pull these things together. It can't just be only when I'm home that I'm doing this, So it was born out of necessity, for sure.
Well, seems to be working very well.
I give thanks.
All right, we're going to play some more music. Jah9 is here. This is Max Glazer. It's the Federation Sound, Red Bull Radio.
Traveling through inner space, slowing at a constant pace, focused and relaxing at the same time. Deconstruct reality, then set it how you'd like it to be. Break the chains and take free, it's the same crime since slave times. Do what you've been taught to do, never what you ought to do. Keep it all inside till the time's right. Hold your tongue, hold your breath, let either lead to certain death, or let it drift away as you pass the light. Let me help you find yourself inside your other mind. Step outside and leave behind the worries of that other kind. Let me help you find yourself inside your other mind. Step outside, leave behind the worries of that other kind. Find yourself inside. What's been still in me makes concentrating come so easily. It's the natural key, created so we can escape and be free. Let me help you find yourself inside your other mind. Step outside and leave behind the worries of that other kind. Let me help you find yourself inside your other mind. Step outside.
You have to talk to me about this song, because this is so far out of the lane of anything that we've heard from you, and even that I really would have ever expected, even on the expansive musical journey that we talked about at the beginning of this show.
Well, this record, I mean, I have listened widely. I was actually exposed to African music before I was even exposed to reggae music in my home growing up. And so there is that space for that sound, that rich, full sound. And in my mind, African music, roots music, I mean, they're all from the same heart, from the same source. And so when we were in Belgium last year, I connected with my brother Brett Poorman from Lost Art Music. And every time we're in Belgium, we stay with him. And he has one of those real vintage studios. And, you know, the whole band is there. And we're just jamming and we play. We're building like 11 rhythms over 3 days.
That kind of vibe.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I want to do something different. And we're listening to some vintage African music. And I decided, okay, this is how, let's start with this kind of vibe. Let's start with give it a really nice long intro. And then let's do the drum beat in this way. And I'm trying to get my drummer, my sweet little drummer, who don't really have a lot of experience with African music, to feel the vibe. So he's technically doing it correctly, but there's just something missing. So I'm like bubbling in front of him like, do it this way. Do it this way. And he's getting it, and then he's getting into it, and then the bass line comes in, and then it really was an organic experience. So by the time the track was done, you know, it was like everybody was dancing in the room. And then I took it to Jamaica, and Clive is like, it needs something. So I'm like, okay. And then that's now when we infuse the roots roll. So we roll it in. So you'll notice the song moves between the Afrobeat and the roots. And so we wanted to make it broad. You know, and it is my great experiment. And yes, the purists will complain, but in another breath, like if you just listen to it just for an experience and close your eyes and just let the music move you, you cannot help but move, you know? And it's really that. And it's a ganja song, you know? It's a song about using that which is from nature to access that which is joyful within yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, it was super unexpected because I had, you know, so I sort of played the first two. I saved that one for third for a reason, because hearing the other two that we played at the top of the show definitely made me know that this was a different direction, and there was different sounding music coming from you, and this whole project and the tour and everything would be different than what I had experienced on tour with you. And then that one came and was like, this is totally different again. Now I don't even know where we're going.
Yeah. And that's it. And when the record comes out next year, there's going to be some more new vibration too. And that's, again, this is now experimenting with, okay, this is the message, this is the mission, this is the energy. But in terms of genre and the boxes, we're crawling all over these boxes. We're crawling out of these boxes and kicking them off the table and saying, hey, we're using it as a science for real to say, what do the people need to hear? We want them to move, but at the same time, we want them to listen. And at the same time, we want them to transcend sound and feel them roots. So when you feel this now, everybody feel like an African in the room. You know what I mean? If they will let it in. You know, because you have ones who go and block it. Like, they're going to be like, this is not what I wanted to hear from Jah9. No. Fold their arms and no. But if you let it in, you cannot help but move. You know, it's infectious music.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like I said, it's interesting because you're always very aware of things like that, where some artists would tend to sort of not look at it, understand it, or look at it from that person in the audience's perspective. And to be aware enough to know, okay, some people aren't going to get this, or some people aren't going to be ready for this right now. Exactly. And that's it, because a lot of people, some of the tracks from my 9 album, there are people who it took them a couple years before they were like, you know, I finally get it, you know. And like songs like Baptized and Spiritual Woman, like people took some time to warm to them. But that's the thing about it, you know, we're making timeless music. So even if right now, the same person who might not appreciate it now, it might be that same medicine that is good for them later on. So we have to stick to the inspiration rather than looking at just what's trending, you know? I mean, I think it's cool if you can also, what you've done, set the precedent for people who, through whatever way get turned onto your music, that the next thing is not going to be just like the last thing that you
Exactly.
got. So, and it's kind of the most, if you can really, really get to that place, like the most powerful place to be as an artist, where you can go, where people believe in you enough for them to just follow you on that next step and not just necessarily go, cool, what's next? That's just like the last thing that you gave
True.
us.
I feel very blessed for that reason. And I just want to keep doing that, you know? And it gives, I really needed to have that freedom as a creative to know that, okay, yes, roots is my roots too, but there is so much more, you know? And because of who I am as an individual, then once I am making the music, no matter what the music around it sounds like, it's going to be roots. And that's something Clive Hunt said to me, like, you still roots, you know, because of the way you're bringing the message across and because the drum and bass is still so dominant, it's roots. And you are reggae music. So, you know, we are reggae music. We're bringing it into the future. There's no thing to say that, okay, this is no longer reggae music because it like, we have a genre that is so flexible to us, just like Rastafari. We are constantly defining it because it is a living, breathing thing. And that is what reggae music is. So you hear the music that my brethren are putting out now. You hear the North American influence. You hear them trapping and and it's awesome. But it's still reggae music. You're going to play it in the midst of. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a great point, and it's a point that I use to, like, kind of overall with reggae music. Overall, when people are like talking to me about records that seem and feel overtly pop, when we're talking, you know, over the years, I've had this conversation about Sean Paul, and I go, well, to me, he can do whatever he wants because the way reggae music is and the place that it comes from and how powerful it is that his voice, that voice alone, is the instrument that makes it reggae music. So if it's on an instrumental track that feels more EDM or one that feels more like urban or R&B, that it's still that voice alone from any artist. You, Sean, Movado.
I think it's the accent, isn't it? It could be, and it's that brand Jamaica that you talk about again, because it's not as though he's singing in R&B and then he's singing it with an American accent, so you wouldn't even be able to tell. The moment you can identify a Jamaicanness in the voice,
it connects it.
Almost like,
it connects it to reggae and to this whole history and tradition of things that you talked about
it's
earlier.
It's like seeing the Rasta woman on stage. Before she even opened her mouth, you're thinking about all of the ancients that you've known before.
Yeah, so like you said, whatever. Like I said, it's perfect that you just said that, because I've always made this argument that anything that you put your voice on is going to be reggae music, and some of it may be reggae music in a style and pattern that people are familiar with, and like what we just played, Field Trip, it may be unfamiliar to them, but it doesn't. I think it doesn't make it any less.
Yeah,
reggae or any less roots even.
I agree. And I mean, people will debate with you as to whether or not Sean Paul is even reggae music. But I get
let's
it.
do it. I'll debate it all the way.
You know what I mean? We get it.
Home.
It is the Jamaicanness that makes it reggae. And I mean, to each his own in terms of opinions of this issue. But where I stand, like, it is Jamaica that makes it reggae music. And so, I mean, you have lots of other quote-unquote reggae bands out there now doing much better than a lot of the Jamaican bands, you know? But for them to call it reggae, they have to find a Jamaicanness in their sound in order for it to even fit into their categories, not just the beat. You're going to hear it. They're going to have to, some word or something, they're going to have to pronounce differently, or they're going to have to put in a slang, because it is the voice, it is the word sound. You know, the sound that comes with the word that makes it reggae, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, certainly. You're in tune to the Federation Sound, Red Bull Radio. Max Glazer, Jah9 is here. And when we talk about reggae and we talk about the voice, would you be so kind as to sing something for us before you leave here today?
Whoa, sing? All right.
All right, I'll take that as a
Here
yes.
we go on. Okay, here we go on now. Hard times ahead, that's what they're saying. Everything is crumbling down. But I I choose instead to remain optimistic despite the negative energy floating around. My life, my potential, and my destiny are not accidental, they're decided by me. I'm creating my future one day at a time. The power is mine. I am my own designer. From concept to execution, my own designer. Planning my own personal revolution. No victim state of mind. What I search for is what I find. Attracting everything I need to succeed. Woo woo. Federation sound.
Jah9. Oh man, it's always such a pleasure to sit down and talk to you, and really looking forward to hearing the rest of this new direction.
Yes, I.
Always on tour, so people can find you on tour.
Yes, it would seem that way. Always on tour.
It would seem that
We're
way.
not complaining. We give thanks.
So they can find you on tour for music. They can also find you teaching yoga, and they can find you doing those two things together quite often as well,
Yes,
right?
Yes, I.
All right, so make sure you find Jah9. And what's all the online information?
Jah9.com. You can get everything from there. You can get my handmade crystal merch too.
All
you
right.
can get all the music, all the social media, all the videos, all of the word sound. I will come in with blogs and whole heap of content. I want some yoga videos too, because the people asking for that. So some simple things that they can just tune into and, learn a little breath work. Whole heap of things coming. All at Jah9.com.
And when did you say we can look for this next album?
The next album, I'd say the first quarter of 2019.
That's very official sounding of you. The first quarter. We don't.
The first quarter.
Okay, we haven't locked in the date. We haven't locked in the date via numerology yet, though.
No, we still have to consult the oracle, but we're gonna.
All right. Well, everyone, stay tuned, because you're going to hear it, and you're going to hear about it here on the Federation Sound, Red Bull Radio. Once again, Jah9,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Give thanks.
We're going to finish up. We're going to let you get out of here, but we're going to finish up with the bonus track. This one is Hardcore, Jah9 featuring Chronics.
Yes, the remix.
None of them can stop the time. Original Chronics and Jah9. Talking to the youths of today.
Hardcore, you cannot claim no victory till your heart pure and your mind. But them hardcore, when I say I alone can make them hard sure at this time. They hardcore, you cannot claim no victory till your heart pure and your mind. But them hardcore, when I say I alone can make them hard sure at this time. This peace we're seeking. So all I try to disturb a distance, we're keeping you away from the treasure that you're sniffing round to take. But you cannot penetrate. So even if you find the art, you cannot reach the gate. Leaving you waiting in vain, and love you all the same. But you're not hardcore. You cannot claim a victory till your heart pure and your mind. But them hardcore, when I say I alone can make them hard sure at this time. They hardcore, you cannot claim no victory till your heart pure and your mind. But them hardcore, when I say I alone can make them hard sure at this time.
Man, then you cannot say you're hardcore if you're corner hard. You have to dance at your yard before a broad. That mean cleaning on your heart before your skin. Look deep in your soul, look more within. Like I listen, say, we better be greater people, greater than we ever been.